Now, moving on in the bulletin, a news coming in, latest in the Maldives crisis. The police has launched an investigation into the attempts to overthrow the WION government. 30 people have been questioned and the 15 locations have been searched. The police have also recovered money from Supreme Court judges who had passed an order releasing political prisoners, including former President Mohammad Nasheed. And on this issue, I am joined by Padma Rao, senior foreign editor. She is with me at this point of time from the newsroom. How do we contextualize the developments which are taking place in Maldives from past 1 week?
Well, we contextualize them in terms of a dictatorship which is, slowly closing in on its target, which is absolute power and control, and a decimation of the opposition. All this talk, the police of the Maldives has lost its credibility in the first place because it has stood by, it has gone against a Supreme Court judgment and stood by the president in doing so. And now these arrests and these mysterious, wads of cash appearing under certain mattresses and black suitcases and all this. We've seen all this before, Kartikeya, in the Maldives, and this is part of a larger plan. In fact, there was an international documentary, alleging, making pretty much the similar charges against the current president himself. Wads of cash being carried around Malé, the small capital, to be handed to various people, and some of those people who turned dissidents were then slammed behind bars, including his own vice president. So this is an emerging, and indeed for the past 1 week, we've seen this crisis, growing in leaps and bounds. And now it is the family of the former president, in fact, the former president himself, Maumoon Gayoom, who is one of the accused, and the Chief Justice. So, it doesn't get more unsurprising than that, I would say.
But in context of India, what are the ramifications in context to our bilateral relationship with Maldives, and what changes for us, Padma?
I'm sorry, Kartikeya, I don't get your question. I don't have audio.
I'm saying that what change in context of the developments which are taking place in Maldives, and in context of the way you have contextualized for us, what is the ramification for India?
Well, I think you said what is the ramification for India, because I don't have an audio right now. The ramification for India is really, India has been waiting and watching, and India will not go in unilaterally. It has made that clear. Indeed, it is asking for a UN fact-finding mission, and that is what WION has also been predicting, that India will go with a larger global community in investigating this matter, but it's not going to go it alone. What has surprised me actually even more is Pakistan's, somewhat desperate attempt to be counted within those states that respect democracy, because Pakistan has also come out with a very peculiar statement towards the visiting Maldivian envoy of President Yamin, by saying that we are not going to. We suggest that you uphold the the judgment of the Supreme Court, and we are all for the restoration of democracy in the Maldives. Now that is quite funny coming from Pakistan, because press freedom and respecting the judiciary is very selective in Pakistan. So this, as far as India is concerned, India is going to do the responsible thing, do the thing that is expected of it as a responsible member of the global community, and it has begun indeed by asking for a UN fact-finding mission on the ground. Having said that, United Nations fact-finding missions over the years have become somewhat of a cynic. They tend to be also quite colored and biased many times, depending on who's influencing them. So I hope India will get to play a leading role in that enterprise.
Before I let go of you, what explains the difference between today's position and when Rajiv Gandhi was the Prime Minister, when a direct intervention took place? Why is that difference so much? This is despite the fact that we are financially and economically far more stable. Padma, my question to you is that what is the difference between the 1980s when Rajiv Gandhi was the Prime Minister, and now when you said we will go with the larger community, and this difference, please explain the difference in the context. In 87 we were not so financially powerful, which we stand today and can afford a unilateral action. So why this change?
There are two differences, Kartikeya. In 1988, I think you referred to 87, 88 indeed, when India carried out Operation Cactus. There were two differences. One is that the Chinese presence in the Maldives was not as extensive as it is today. Indeed, it wasn't even as extensive in the Indian Ocean region as it is today. And as you know, China is not a rim state of the Indian Ocean. And yet it is, building its Belt and Road Initiative, and the Maldives is pretty much the centerpiece, or one of two centerpieces in that initiative. The other difference is that in 1988, it was the government of the Maldives, the President Maumoon Gayoom, who is currently behind bars, indeed, against whom the latest charges from the Maldivian police are. It was he who invited India, who requested India to send in troops and to help him, because there were some Maldivian businessmen who wanted to to get rid of him, and they took the help of 17 Tamil terrorists from neighboring Sri Lanka. And there was a crisis on the ground, and he needed help, and that is when India sent in its troops. Now, mind you, we have been asked for help even this time, but the people asking us for help are those who belong to the opposition, the united opposition against President Yamin. And so it's not an official request from the government of the Maldives. Indeed, as we've been saying, for over the past 1 week, there seems to be less and less of a government in the Maldives and more of a dictatorship.